What up, book lovers? It is GSwiz here, and I'm here today with the Twice a Year Tag August edition. So this tag was originally created by Beck at Beckle Books. I'll link their channel in the description so you can check them out. And before we proceed, look, I initially had the plan to wear a blazer. For some reason, while I was getting ready, I was just like, no. Even though a blazer will keep me warm, this is just too cozy. This, by the way, is an anniversary gift I gave to Camilo like a year ago. He loves it, and I see him wear it. I'm like, man, you look comfy. Even though I already have my own kind of hoodie style Kmart hoodie. There's just something about this Peter Alexander Shrek hoodie thing that was calling to me this morning, so I'm wearing this. I feel very cozy. This actually feels very nice. I'm just gonna try to take my hair out because I have hair. I've got a lot of it. It is winter in Australia, and I've got to keep myself warm while filming, because if I don't, then I'm just going to run to the heater in between takes. So the Twice a Year book tag is a book tag that is designed to help you check in twice a year, obviously, within the months of April and August to see where you were at then and where you are at now, and vice versa. And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into this because when I filmed my April one, I was not in the best mental state, and right now I'm in a much better mental state, and I am in a much better place in terms of my reading life. I mean, it's not perfect yet. I still feel as if 2023 was my favorite reading year, but 2024 is getting there, and I'm going to be discussing that more as we go through these prompts. So I guess without further ado, I'm going to get straight into this tag and talk about my reading progress so far this year through the tag prompts. Prompt number one is... Oh, I have to talk about this. Okay, how many books do you think you'll read this year? Now, I don't want to be what's wrong with BookTube, right? But I acknowledge that I am part of the problem. Okay, hear me out. Pretty sure in my initial Twice a Year book tag that I posted in April, I had mentioned that I have the potential to read 300 books, right? I've talked about this in previous videos throughout the years. When I put my goal out there into the universe, it does something to me. Like, I become restless and anxious until I know that I can achieve that goal, right? Okay, so where am I going with this? Like, 300 isn't bad because last year I did achieve the completion of over 350 books. So based on my previous progress, it was not an unrealistic goal. However, I shot myself in the foot when I had a conversation with the managing director of my company, of all people. I decided, in order to impress him, I don't know what came over me, honestly. It's not like he was putting pressure on me, but I said it to impress him. I was just like, you know what? My goal this year is to read 400 books. And I'd say for a good week and a half, I forgot that I even mentioned that. I mean, I technically said it out of excitement. I was just hyped the whole time while discussing books. And it didn't hit me until it hit me once within the middle of a night. Like, I had no sleep one night because I had realized that I had put a 400 book goal out into the universe. And out of all people I mentioned it to, it was the managing director of my company who I was trying to impress. And all I could think of was, you know, me in 2025 when they check in, they're like, hey, you know, you said you wanted to read 400 books in 2024, how'd that go? If I don't answer honestly, then I'd hate myself. I mean, if I do answer honestly, then I'd also hate myself. And so now I've shot myself in the foot. The good news is I've got a lot of manga to get through, and so I'm planning to demolish a bunch of manga this year. So in a way, it's a good thing for my TBR. I don't like it when people shame people for reading too much, but I also don't want people to feel bad if they can't reach a similar goal. You know, the last thing I want to do is make people feel pressured to read more. I shot myself in the foot, and I am going to wear it. And yes, I know at the end of the day, it is my reading life and it is my choice. The last thing I want people to feel is pressured based on my reading choices, okay? This is my life. I am part of the problem. I apologize for that, but the last thing I want you to feel is pressure because I shot myself in the foot. I plan to read 400. I reckon I can achieve 300, but I plan to read 400. And that will include a lot of manga and maybe a lot of shorter books as well, because I'm ridiculous and I did not think this plan through. I did not go into 2024 with this goal. I just so happened to say it in a meeting. And yeah, I kind of have regrets, but you know what? it's a challenge. Prompt number 2, have you made a specific reading goal or target that you need to check in with or keep track of? Look, I am really bad with keeping track of my 24 books I want to read in 2024. I have not rewatched that video since. My 5-star predictions, I did rewatch that video once, and I definitely did notice a few books that I've read this year being on that list as well. My rereads TBR, I forgot what's on that TBR, honestly. I have not been checking in with that. I've also not been checking in with my series TBR. At this point, I think I need to go back and rewatch these goal videos because I made them for a reason, but I have not been going back to rewatch them or at least see what books are in the thumbnail. But a goals video that I did recently watch was my 30 books that I need to read before 30. Because if you guys don't know, in less than 15 months time, I will turn 30. And that means it's time to chop chop. Like, I actually do need to get through that TBR. And I think I'm around halfway through that TBR. I'm not sure, maybe I'm like 12 books in. Let's just say that I'm definitely somewhere within the teens portion. I did read one book off of that TBR very recently, and I've got many more to go. So I'm hoping to read more of those books this year, but I definitely need to prioritize this TBR sometime early next year because October 2025, you know, the TBR expires. Prompt number 3 is, how many 5-star books have you read so far this year? So in the last video, I discussed 10 5-star books I read, and since that last video, I've read 18 more, which is great, okay? That is how you know that the year is really picking up for me. The Kraken Sacrifice by Katie Robert is one of them. I really loved this book. I did not expect The Kraken Sacrifice to be my favorite book in the series, but so far it is. So far, it's the book that lives in my mind rent-free, and yeah, I can't wait to continue on with the series because Katie Robert is absolutely blowing me away with how she writes monster romance. I think that she does an excellent job with it, and I'd like to see her write more. And yes, of course, obviously, A Soul to Heal is also on this list. I love this book so much. I read this book soon after I filmed the last Twice a Year book tag, and yeah, this book is just spectacular. I love this series so much. I highly recommend the Duskwalker Bride series if you love monster romance, or if you're nervous about getting into monster romance. I reckon that this series is the best monster romance to try so far. It is my favorite monster romance series so far, and I've only read the first 2 books, so that says a lot. The Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts, volumes 3, 10, 11, and 15. Those volumes got a 5 stars for me. I love this series. I love the anime so much as well. I also highly recommend the series if you love the Duskwalker Brides series or if you like Beauty and the Beast. Only and Forever by Chloe Leese. Yes, of course, this definitely deserved a 5 out of 5 stars. The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. This book was actually a reread. Initially, I gave this book somewhere between a 3.5 to a 4.25. I really actually don't remember. I mean, I found it to be good, but upon a reread after going through Grief and Loss, this book just meant so much more to me, and it's a 5 stars. Like, I love this book so much. I think it's a masterpiece, and it just came back into my life at the right time. And of course, I also have to mention Run Riot and Dare Not. These 2 are within the State of Grace series, and honestly, I love the rest of the series. The rest of the series gets like a 4 out of 5 stars, but these 2 books specifically, they're 5-star reads. Full Metal Alchemist volumes 7, 9, 17, and 18 in the Full Metal editions. I say the Full Metal editions because I think the original volumes are a lot smaller than the Full Metal editions. The Full Metal editions condenses the series into 18 volumes, but the original series itself, I believe, is 27. Just the story within those Full Metal editions, those got a 5 stars. Entranced by the Basilisks by Lillian Lark. I love the Monstrous Matches series, but if there's any book in the series that I would give a 5 stars to, it'd be Entranced by the Basilisks. I love the story, I love the romantic dynamic, I love these characters a lot, and the spice in this one was really hot. I mean, the spice in the series is just hot in general. Like, Lillian Lark can write a good spicy scene. But this book specifically made me feel so happy, and so that's why I have to give it a 5 star. Insomniacs After School volume 6. I mean, I love this series so much, and when I first read the first volume, like maybe last year or the year before, I gave that first volume a 5 out of 5 stars, but I'd have to say that volume 6 captures the same heart as volume 1, except in a romantic way. And it barely has any dialogue, but it was just so impactful. It made me feel so much. It made me cry tears of joy. It just made me feel so happy, and I can't wait to continue on with the series. And the last 2 5-star books that I have to mention, I actually recently read within the month. The Wolf and the Wildflower by Ella Fields. This book, I was not really expecting much from, and unfortunately, the reason why I mention that is because The Savage and the Swan, the first book in this duet, I didn't love. Like, it was not at all a favorite. I just found it to be okay, but The Wolf and the Wildflower Wildflower, this story just really stuck with me. These characters I really connected to on a deep and emotional level. This book made me cry so much. This book made me feel a lot of feelings. It just reminded me why I love fantasy romance so much, and I'm just so happy that it was the right book at the right time for me, because I love fantasy romance and I only recently got back into the genre slash subgenre. So reading a book like this at a time like this just felt so magical, you know? And I could definitely say the same thing about The King's Bride by Beck Michaels. I was expecting to like this book, but I was not expecting to be head over heels for it. I know that this book was pitched to me as a Beauty and the Beast reimagining. So of course I went into this book with that expectation, but I got something absolutely magnificent out of this book. Oh my goodness, this book had me in a chokehold. I usually struggle with standalones because I prefer to go into books knowing that there's going to be some sort of continuation with the main character's story. I don't know, I just like following them for a while, and funnily enough, The Wolf and the Wildflower and The King's Bride, both of these books are standalone companion books. They take place within a world where there are more books, but they're essentially standalones. They have a beginning, middle, and end for the main characters within these books. Usually, that makes me kind of sad because I love following characters over the course of a few books. But honestly, after reading these two beautiful fantasy romance standalone books, I can say with full confidence that the reading experiences really shaped my perspective about fantasy standalones. I mean, these books kind of made me realize that there's so much that I'm missing out on in the fantasy romance space. There are so many great fantasy romance standalones out there that I have not tried because I've only really cared about character journeys in a longer form for a while. Prompt number 4 is, what's a popular book you own but you haven't read yet? When the Moon Hatched. I ordered the Fairy Loot edition and I have the Waterstones exclusive edition, and I still haven't actually finished this book. I actually started this book when it was initially independently published and I was intrigued, but I never continued, and it's a pretty long book, so I do plan on getting to it sometime. I might listen to the audiobook. I just need to own the audiobook first before I can actually get to that, so we'll see how I go with that one. I hope to get to that one this year, but if not, maybe closer to when the sequel is coming. Prompt number 5 is, do you want to reread anything within the next few months? I did say that I wanted to reread the Nightborn duet, pretty much The Serpent and the Wings of Night and Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I initially wanted to reread them because I wanted to see if they would make a higher ranking on my top favorite series of the year. I actually don't know where they would sit at the moment because I was going through a terrible mental state when I was reading the second book in the series, but I also want to reread the series in the lead up to the first book in the next duet. And the reason why I do is because one of the side characters in the Nightborn duet is the main character in the next duet. So I do want to look at their journey a little bit more closely as well before following them in their own story. And then I also want to reread The Hurricane Wars. I so badly want to reread this book. I am scared that upon reread I might enjoy it less, but I do want to just experience it all again, and I'm actually hoping that upon reread I will love this book even more. Prompt number 6 is, what new release are you anticipating for the second half of the year? I did mention a few anticipated releases in the twice a year tag that I posted in April, but I have to mention A Monsoon Rising, which is the sequel to The Hurricane Wars. I honestly don't know if I'm actually gonna read this book by the end of the year because it does come out within December, and December is the busiest month of the year for me personally. It's the biggest month work-wise and then family-wise as well. It's just a wild month, and I don't know if I'm gonna get to A Monsoon Rising by the end of the year, so I might be reading it sometime early next year. I don't know, we'll see. But it is a 2024 new release that I am seriously anticipating. I am scared about my babies, but I also need to know if my babies are gonna get closer in this book. I really don't know. I am personally worried that this book might suffer from second book syndrome. This is a trilogy, I believe. I think it's gonna be a trilogy or it's gonna be longer. I have no clue. But I'm just hoping to see relationship progression in this sequel. Not gonna lie, I am nervous about what the reviews are gonna say if I'm not gonna be able to read this book immediately. I am just honestly scared about the second book because I feel as if the second book needs to be perfect. Because, I mean, the first book was really good, but I am just expecting these characters to have more moments with each other. And when I say more moments, I mean the kind of moments of passion. I don't know, I just kind of want to see more passionate energy between the two characters. I mean, they have it, but I don't want to be teased. I actually want more out of the second book, and I'm kind of nervous that the second book is also going to be kind of slow burny, but no. I feel like we endured a big enough slow burn in the first book. I would understand why the second book would also be a slow burn, but I mean, I actually want it all in the second book. If not, I want so much in the third book to make up for it, please. And last but certainly not least, what are you planning to pick up next, and do you think you'll rate it a 4 stars or above? I totally forgot that the final book in the Belladonna trilogy by Adeline Grace was coming out in August. I've had so much go on in my life, I totally forgot. But considering I essentially want to devour the series within the next few months, I'm deciding to put Foxglove as my answer, even though I don't know if Foxglove is going to be my next read. I'm obviously going to reread Belladonna before going into Foxglove and Wisteria, but Foxglove is the first book in the series that I have not yet read, and I reckon that it's going to be good. I've actually held myself back from reading reviews for this book and for the rest of the series. As much as I love Belladonna and I'm curious to see what everyone thinks about Foxglove, I've made the personal decision to not look at reviews because I kind of want to go into the rest of the series not knowing what to expect. I mean, I knew that people loved Belladonna. I knew that it had buzz, but I was not expecting it to hit as hard as it did for me. But that was mostly because Belladonna was the right book for me at the right time. I read it soon after I lost a friend. My reading experience of Belladonna essentially reminds me of my reading experience I had recently with The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. It's just one of those books that comforted me at the time that I needed the comfort, you know? And I did want to continue on with the series, but at the time that I read Belladonna, initially I read it for comfort, and this time round I want to read this series for the sake of the actual story, you know, for the sake of the actual romance and the plot and the mystery. I'm curious about it. I honestly cannot wait to see how Adeline Grace will blow my mind throughout the series, because I hear great things about this trilogy altogether, but at the moment I barely know anything about Foxglove specifically, so yeah, I don't know. I just kind of expect that this one is going to be a 4 stars because I loved Belladonna, and if Adeline Grace keeps the same energy and did not put the series into a second book slump, then I reckon that the series overall is going to be spectacular. So I guess that's going to be it for this video today, book lovers. If you happen to stay to the end of the video, leave me the green heart emoji because Shrek. And if you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers. And also I have social media. I'm at itsgswizzelbooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also GOODREADS. That's www.goodreads.com/dswizzle. And finally, I'm at TikTok. I'm at dswizzle on TikTok if you want to follow me there for some bookish content. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
How did I win half and I flipped it in a double? How did I win half and I flipped it in a double?